I'm Christopher Love, and I have a graphic design and illustration business here at Acton.
Okay.
And I've been doing this kind of work for over 35 years. I started out working in a variety of different areas. I've been a designer, an art director, a number of different professions through the years. I've been a teacher. So I've managed to do a little bit of everything, and now I'm working toward getting my business sort of going locally more so than before. And one of the projects that I have been working on lately is the Acton Car Show.
Okay.
The very one that the Chamber of Commerce here puts on
every
year to raise money for the annual 4th of July parade.
That's right, yes.
And I thought maybe we could take a look at some of the designs and some of the processes that I go through to create those elements. I have actually two separate computers. And those computers are designed to do different things. This is actually a drawing tablet.
A big one.
And it's a very big tablet, and I'll show you how that works in just a little bit.
Sure.
Because that one's fascinating, because it works just like a piece of paper underneath your pen. We started out with an idea for a logo, and an idea to put some illustration and things with it. As I continued to work, I came up with a more finished logo, which involves a little bit of handwork, a little bit of type work, and you end up with something that's a little more spectacular than just the plain type. But I always start with the basics. And then what we do is we add the color. And now we've got both a color and a black and white version, which is important when you're designing. This is part of what graphic design is about. It's thinking the project through. I always am reminded when people say to me, but there are places out there where I can get a template, and I can make business cards for $10, or I can make a brochure for $20. And I'm always reminded of Henry Ford when he started in car production. As he said to his customers, you can have any color car you want as long as it's black. And as long as you're willing to use only the template that you're afforded, that can be used by anyone else so that you have no unique look, you're probably okay. But if you want a unique look, then you have to consider doing some things a little differently. And when we work in graphic design, we start with a simple idea, and we turn it into a more finished piece. The same is true with illustration. But then you take that illustration and you do a little more with it, which is the exciting part of what we do. So that truck actually turned into a more finished illustration.
Look at that.
When you start with the line art, you then do a little changing, you do a little editing, and you end up with that. So we did this is a 1950 GMC that was rendered. We then had another car that we rendered. This is a 1972 Corvette with a few flames added just for the excitement. And we then did a 1933 Willys, which, by the way, was this type of vehicle was the winner of the Best of Show last year. Once you've done all these things, you then, as I said, you build your background. And then what you do is you start to put the elements in place. And the next thing you know, you have an illustration that's fairly well finished. And this is the basis for the auto show art for this year, right here. And this will turn into t-shirts, it will turn into flyers, posters, banners. And of course there's more to do. Now this is the illustration portion. We're going to generate a black and white version of the same thing for newspaper placement. We're going to add type for the flyer, more type for the poster because it can hold more type on a bigger image. This is my drawing computer. And this one works slightly differently because this is actually a drawing tablet, and it works like a piece of paper. Most of my work nowadays is digital. I may do a sketch and scan it in
Yeah.
But I usually work then on this because you have a great deal of control over the image, and simple things like just drawing lines, and I'll just show you out here. You can literally draw right on the screen, and that's how I created this gas pump. And the images, it's a 1930s gas pump that I generated from a lot of reference photos that I had to find, because oddly enough we don't have 1930s gas pumps anymore.
Hanging around all over the place.
No. And in those days it was the gas was actually stored in the pump, and it was actually stored in the area up here. So when this illustration is completed, it turns into a different thing. Now this is the rough that I worked from.
Yeah.
And I recently applied some of the illustration that I've done over there to a different project. And that project was a fine art print that I generated using the Willies that I drew.
Sure.
And I added headlights. I put some background into it.
Yeah.
And I added a 1930s style gas station.
Marvelous.
And let me show you. If we zoom in here, you will see that I finished the gas pump and I incorporated it into the illustration, which you can see works very nicely, and it fits very well with the image. This was all done digitally from a few sketches that I scanned in.
I see.
And literally created completely in the computer. Yeah. I use Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator for most of my work like that. These are just a couple of newsletters that I've developed over the years. The Zephyr here was for an insurance company, and it was their internal organ. And I developed the design and the look of it, and trained the in-house personnel how to make it. It took a process of about 4 newsletters so that they could first we finalized the design, and then we showed them how to do it.
Now, are they printing this out or just digitally emailing it around?
At the time we started, they were literally mailing it, but now it's become an email project. And this is the Urban Forestry newsletter for the California Urban Forest Council.
Sure.
And I developed those for many years, and of course that too has now gone digital. These are the old printed versions. And again, I developed the logo and the look for the entire project, and I did this for a number of years until we finally trained new people in the art of creating the newsletter along the lines that we designed. This is an animated GIF, which is one of the more exciting aspects of website and web design. And one of my particular specialties is web animation. This is a little rocket ship that I created that just flies right off the screen on the side of a website. And it was just sort of a little fun thing, kind of a tribute to those old 1950s science fiction movies where the rockets always looked like this. You can go out and buy a basic package like I use.
Yeah.
Costs probably, without the computer, about $3,000 in software.
Yeah.
But you have to then learn how to use the programs, which can take years.
Yeah.
So those are all the aspects of it. I'm a member of the Graphic Artists Guild, and I use their Pricing and Ethical Guidelines book.
Oh, yeah?
As a guide for how I charge. My price range isn't as high as it seems probably at the outset. I charge between $25 and $50 an hour depending upon what type of work I'm doing as an hourly rate. I do usually bid as a package. In other words, I look at what you might have as a client, and will I have to say, we're doing a brochure. That's a good example. Will I have to write the copy, or are you going to give me a couple of lines and say, well, this is kind of what I thought, but am I going to be writing the copy? Am I going to have to find the photos, or are you going to supply them? Will I have to do illustrations? Do you need a logo for that particular brochure, or does your company already have a logo? Those are all questions that come in to the design package.